Welcome back, my little lovebirds, to
What to Watch Now,
where we talk about what's streaming on Netflix right now. And today we are continuing to talk about Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, Season 2, Episode 3, Chapter 14, Lupercalia, if I'm saying that correctly. I am hopeless when it comes to, like, enunciating. Oh, fuck. See, it's so ironic I have a podcast, but let's flow. Let's go with this ocean. I just want to say, I fucking love this show! Now, the whole point of this podcast is to guide us through Netflix and its lack of advertising. There's a lot of great shows. They don't talk about it. I don't know what is everyone's problem. Both new ones, original Netflix, and old ones. And I like to dig through all the trash and be like, look at this. Did you know this exists? And kind of, show you how, all this great content you can get for, like, what is it, $10 a month now or something like that? That being the case, I rarely, though, I'm like, hey, check this out. But rarely do I run into a show like this where I just, like, every episode I'm screaming out loud. I can't wait to talk about it. I usually will be like, this is a pretty great movie. But I mean, like, this is a pretty fucking great show! So, moving forward with this, if you love this show as much as I do, consider becoming a Patreon supporter. It helps me out a lot. Other than that, can we talk about how dark this show is? And when I mean dark, I mean, like, actually dark. Because this show is amazing, beautiful sets, everything. But fucking Christ, like, I have my screen light turned up all the way, and I still feel like I'm squinting. Can someone do something about that? Can they turn the brightness or the saturation up or whatever the lighting issues are? Because it's a weird problem to have on the show. I'm kind of considering going into my computer and seeing if there's some way I can make the screen even brighter. I don't think so, but it's my one criticism of the show. And only criticism of the show, may I say. Now, this episode is all about, well, let's talk about sex, baby. No, it's more about love and passion. And with love, passion, sex, all that type of stuff, it's pretty serious. You kind of start to have those conversations, especially when you're young. Because I feel like when you're older, it's just like, let's bang, whatever, who cares? We don't need to talk about this. Don't talk to me. Leave my house right afterwards. But when you're young and the stakes are kind of high, especially if it's your first time or your first couple times, you start to say, do I want to have this experience with this person? And so on and so forth. And I loved that these were important markers in everybody's, that's kind of like the theme. It wasn't just blanketly like, let's all hook up with someone. It was saying something important about the characters or the relationships with someone else. So, like, we were talking about in the last episode, Lilith or Miss Wardwell. I want to just take a moment and focus on her story before we get to, like, the central theme of Sabrina, Nick Scratch, and so on and so forth. So poor Lilith, at this point, I actually really like her, and I feel so sad that she lost her bet with the Dark Lord, because technically, if she had won, Sabrina would, be quote-unquote more connected to her light side, and in addition to that, she could finally be the ultimate waifu of the Dark Lord. And in a weird way, this is just like my opinion, don't you feel like she's being punished by him? Because she basically accomplished her goal. He asked her to coerce Sabrina to sign her name in the book and kind of get her on more of a testing out her darker side. And she's totally doing that. But there's no need for her anymore to be at the human school, Baxter High, when Sabrina's like full on just going to the Academy of the Unseen Arts. But he's like making her stay there, and she's posing as what would be kind of the ultimate representation of why witches are, like, feel so proud of being witches compared to being mortals. Because in the mortal world, you're shunned as a woman, you have to close up your sexuality, you're a spinster, quote unquote, all this negative stuff that in the witch world, if you want to be an independent single lady your whole life and be a part of a bunch of orgies, more power to you. And it's it's supported. So it's humiliating because she's having to be nice to all these people, be a weird, helpful asset to the community, and Stage is everything she's completely against. I mean, like, we've had many foreshadows at this point that Lilith is an important biblical figure for this community. So to see her kind of be, I guess, in a lesser state, I can't, you see what I'm saying? It's very insulting, and I feel bad for her. But we get this crazy turn of events. Out of nowhere, a man just breaks into her office. Keep in mind, it's Valentine's Day. For the witches, it's Lupercalia, but it's Valentine's Day for the mortals. Oh my god, Jesus Christ. Oh my god. Okay, guys, I'm really sorry. I always try to do the best I can to give you guys the best content I can. That means I pause the podcast often to cancel out airplane noises, train noises. Well, currently, I have a noise I can't get rid of right now. It's a motherfucking blue jay. Blue jays, they're beautiful. They're gorgeous, right? They have the worst sounding caw ever. And I don't know if you can hear it. There you go. Awful. I hate it. Hopefully it will stop soon because I have like 9 episodes to get through, and like I can't just sit here and wait half an hour until it's bored. So if you hear a little bit of cawing in the background, I apologize. I hope it doesn't bother you. Anyways, back to what we were talking about. The Valentine's Day. I love it. Beautiful decorations everywhere. I wish I could enjoy a Valentine's Day like that. That would be sick. I never went to a school where they went that, crazy. But then again, I don't know anybody who goes to a school that decks it out that adorably. So she's surrounded by all of this. She thinks it's disgusting. She hates it. Not just because she's against mortals, really, but rather she's like basically being denied her ultimate relationship with Lucifer. So I think it's made her a little bit like bitter about just like, oh, you just find someone you're in love with and it just works out. Well, bitch, I've been trying to court the guy I like for thousands of years, so screw you. You know what I mean? She puts on her emo eyeliner. Shut up, Lucifer. This isn't a phase. Well, she gets a little treat. And a man pops up into her office. He's got flowers. He is like, I'm here to stay. And she's just like, well, what the fuck? And it even caught me off guard as a viewer because we forget that Lilith is posing as a woman who already had a life. I mean, the woman wasn't someone who didn't have any friends or family, but till now, that's what she thought. That's what was like the perfect cover. It's interesting she didn't right then and there snap his neck with like a spell or something, but either way, he was in her life. And the best part is the reveal that not only is he's her fiance, which is like, that makes sense, that's fine, that's a cute little perfect remedy with the whole Valentine's Day episode, but the hilarious beauty of his name being Adam. Oh my god, I love that. Now, he isn't actually Adam, obviously, unless that gets revealed later. I would love that. But rather, he's kind of almost the personification of the man he left. I mean, she was with Adam, but I don't know if, like, we don't know all the story. I don't know if she just straight up didn't want to have sex with him, she didn't have a connection, or maybe she was with him for a little while, but she didn't want to lie down metaphorically. Like, she didn't want just to submit and do whatever he wanted to do. She wanted to also have her own opinions and agenda. So having this guy kind of treat her as a goddess, it's almost cathartic. I love when she almost stabs him and he moves just out of the way, like she was going to stab him with a knitting needle, and then she's just like, damn it, when he moves. It's kind of funny. That's the thing I love about this show. It makes very dark topics comical at times, and he ends up even giving her this demonic-looking fetish doll, which I love. It kind of like shows he's not a super prude or anything like that. Like, maybe he's a little bit kinky, he's a little bit her style. And in that moment, she's kind of like, damn, you get me. It was fun to see her finally get what she had always wanted. I mean, maybe her situation with Adam would have worked out if he had been like this with her initially. Again, I love the idea of maybe it really is Adam. And he's like, I've come back. I've learned my ways. I'm so sorry. But either way, it was just like a fun coincidence. And honestly, she was being punished. It was almost like she's in an abusive relationship and she develops a new friendship and she's starting to realize how she should actually be treated. And honestly, she likes what she sees. And it's a perfect balance, too, because, like, she's being treated as the goddess she wishes she was being treated as, and valued, and honestly, she should. She works very hard. I mean, if you want her to do something, she gets it done. That's all I'm gonna say. But also, Adam, I bet you, was like, there's a thing called a Madonna complex. If you've watched Sex and the City, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And the idea is, like, I'm sure it happens with, like, girls to guys, too, but I've only ever really heard it happening with guys seeing women as this way. It's like, they'll marry some girl or be with one girl or whatever, but they hold her to such an idyllic innocence that they see anything like sexuality as a negative thing, and therefore maybe withhold sex from them, or, you see what I'm saying? Like, they make what is a normal, healthy, positive thing a part of the human experience, and separate it, and yeah, you get what I'm saying. Okay. So anyways, it was really fun to see her, like, almost poison all the children, then stop coincidentally being poisoned by the children, forced into a loving romance, being idealized, being given cool dolls. That was really fun and cute. Even her familiar even spoke up and she was like, no, not now. I'm enjoying this. I don't know where it's gonna go, but we're gonna follow this right now. So that was a fun little background story to see her go on. But the main episode focused around Nick Scratch's relationship with Sabrina. It's really cute and developing. We learn that Lupercalia is coming up. And Lupercalia happens around the same time as Valentine's Day. It happens to coincide. But their way of celebrating is a lot more fucking fun. It is optional. It isn't trying to force anybody into an uncomfortable situation. But if you want to do it, is hella fun. Essentially, it's over 3 nights. The first night, you do kind of a version of a maypole, and it's a cute, sexy way of picking your quote-unquote partner. It's supposed to be randomly matched, but let's be real. If you really like someone, you're gonna make that match happen. And Sabrina and Nick Scratch cleverly do, because when they had kind of agreed, like, hey, you want to celebrate together? Dorcas stood up and was like, no, girl, it's my turn. And as the weird sisters, we share everything. Aren't like, Dorcas, you probably have already hooked up with him by now. I thought it was really cool. I've been thinking it's very cool that Sabrina has no judgment or worriness or feeling less than incompatible because Nick has clearly been with a lot of other girls in school. It doesn't really bother her or anything, which is really positive and kind of out of the norm when it comes to, like, teen romances. And they play a little glamour trick on her. I love, she pushes Sabrina out of the way at the last minute thinking she got Nick, and then they smile, and he's on the other side of the room, and they're like, we got you, bitch! Then there's the second night, when they're supposed to do this goofy little act. They're supposed to be in their underwear, and I'm really proud of Sabrina. She's becoming more and more comfortable being herself and being in vulnerable states. I think she's a great example of what it feels like when you're coming into your own. It's like, I don't know if I'm ready for sex, which, big spoiler alert, that's like the big build up by the third night. If you want to wait, they even are cool if you want to have sex before, but it's totally voluntary, just to be clear, that she's like, well, I don't know if I'm ready, but, like, I'm also don't know if I'm not ready. Like, as in, I don't know, maybe I'd be down. I kind of feel like I'm ready, and this person is kind of special to me. We've been building some sort of relationship, and, like, she is the appropriate age, so to speak. I thought it was interesting, though, that the possibility of them having sex could have happened. It didn't happen, but it could have happened. And, like, the Dark Lord didn't intervene. Like, again, I don't want to get too creepy, I don't want to get too graphic, but it's weird that the whole idea of the dark baptism is you gotta be a virgin when you go to do it, and the fact that he's so obsessed with Sabrina, clearly wants to make her waifu. I don't know, it just makes me feel weird. Do you feel weird? Don't think about it too hard. So, during this time period, they get a huge bonding experience between the two, and I feel like Sabrina's working her shit out with her own friend group. Because, coincidentally, Roz and Harvey are starting to develop deeper feelings, and Harvey's really going for it. Again, in my opinion, a little too quickly. I think Roz is a wonderful girl, and I do think they are a genuinely cute couple. But again, like, the way they broke up was so messy, and they were, I mean, just last episode, I don't even know if Roz knows about the fact that they did temporarily hook up a little bit. I mean, I think she would consider that, I don't know about cheating, but wouldn't you want to fucking know the guy you're kind of developing feelings for kind of had a moment and hooked up with his ex? You hear how bad that sounds? And that being the case, he kind of is going a little too fast into it. And it's like, wait a minute, when are you just suddenly realizing these feelings for Roz? Did you have them all the time? I don't know. I say that out of liking Roz that much that I like want to protect her and make sure she's okay. So Roz and so Harvey asks Roz on a date, and they're basically developing those feelings. They do have a cute little couple moments where they make out and kiss and they dance. Loved the dancing scene, so sweet. But something that I just want to take a hot second and focus on was the way Sabrina and Roz both handle it. Because let's be real. Sorry, Harvey, it just fucking ain't about you. The way that Roz went and approached Sabrina to let her know, and vice versa, that Sabrina was like, I'm going to try to come to the dance. I want to share the fact that I might lose my virginity with her. They haven't forgotten that their friendship is the most important thing. And she really clearly did love Harvey and Roz, that she would want to see them both happy, like I discussed in the last episode. So I loved seeing that. I loved seeing, like, also it's like a great thing to put out in the world that, like, yay, girl power, friendship, and stuff like that. Meanwhile, I have to laugh that Harvey just coincidentally keeps dating magical girls. I'm starting to dislike Harvey's, like, he's not as nice as he seems, because Roz ends up telling him about her premonition. And she does it in kind of an interesting modern, like, I'm being sensitive to your triggers kind of way, because she just wants him to know, because he's obviously very opposed and has not had great experiences with magic. So she wanted him to know everything on the table if they're going to develop a relationship. And initially, he kind of seemed upset by the idea of her possibly being a witch. And I'm just like, Roz, did you not pick up on that? Like, what if he just turns the tables and blames everything on your premonition abilities? Like, I feel like you're walking on eggshells and you don't know it. But she's blinded by hormones and love. I get it. You know, cute couple and everything like that. I've been wondering when she was confessing to him in that moment if Harvey was like, fuck, all the girls I could pick, I keep picking the magical ones. But that being said, I thought it was kind of bullshit when he's like, well, I really could, like, do with honesty right now. You know, that's what I value. And again, I'm not trying to rag on Harvey, because, like, I don't know, I do like him to a certain degree. But, I don't know, Sabrina was kind of fucking honest with you, and you flipped out on her multiple times. You proved to her that it's not worth being honest with you, because you kind of won't allow there to be any error. You won't allow there to be any flexibility in the discussion. I don't know. I thought it was a little bit bullshit, double standard in that moment. But that's all I'm going to say. I'm happy that they're getting together and they're developing. Side note, very sorry, Roz, that you lost your vision at the end of the episode. That gave me a panic attack. That don't hurt my baby. Side note, Theo had a beautiful, loving conversation with Billy. I don't want to, I'm not someone who ships constantly. That's just, I don't know, that's just not me. I gotta really, feel the couple. I'm even cool with Roz and Harvey being together, but, I don't ship them if I'm being honest. I don't know what it was, but in that moment, when Theo got his cool new haircut, by the way, touching as hell when he opened up to his father, despite his father saying a lot of triggering and insensitive things, Theo opens up to his dad. I'm going to come back to the shipping thing. Opens up to his dad, says, listen, I'm a boy, you're going to have to accept that, but you can be a part of this. Do you want to help me pick out a suit? It made me think about how the idea that worked out pretty well overall, but isn't it crazy? And I know we can talk about the idea of when someone is in any LGBTQ AI plus category and comes out to their family or whatever. But I would include this works for any situation. Have you ever been in a situation where people will not allow you to be yourself or make the decisions because as far as they're concerned, it makes them happy to see you in this box? And again, that goes beyond gender concerns. I'm talking about hobbies, goals, ideas. And I think it's the most selfish thing you can do to not allow this person you supposedly love be themselves, even if you don't agree with it. Do you see what I'm saying? So, just, food for thought, as I always say, and beautiful moment. But back to what I was talking about. So, Theo's having this kind of moment with Billy at the dance. He compliments his haircut. And, of course, Theo's upset for a moment, thinking he's being made fun of, but Billy apologizes. For like half a fucking second, I thought Theo was going to be like, by the way, I'm the one that made your trip. But of course, like, how would he explain that and reveal everything about Sabrina? Of course, that's not going to happen. I'm glad, though, he put that guilt aside, because while I do not condone violence, clearly it got the job done, because I don't know, I'm always down for, like, redemptive arcs. I'd rather people just not be an asshole straight up, but it's really great to see that Billy's overcoming his bullshit and just genuinely wants to be friendly to Theo. But for me, in that moment, I, like, shipped them. Now, we don't know if Theo is into girls or guys, because it can go either way. It can go any way. Or pansexual. I mean, like, I can't even tick how many boxes there are. But did you not feel this weird sense of, like, Billy being turned on by Theo and Theo kind of being turned on by Billy? I don't know. Wouldn't that be fucking crazy if they started dating and then Theo, who's just kind of coming into his sexuality, Billy's got to figure out his sexuality? That'd be so fucking crazy. I don't know. That'd be a good plotline. I mean, we'll see. We still got, like, I don't know, what is this? The third episode? We got 6 more episodes to go. I'm shipping Billy and Theo. I'm putting it out there. Or, at minimum, I'd be cool with them being friends. But I really want them to get together. I would be totally into that. Now, obviously I had to catch up on the side plot lines because they were so interesting. But back to Nick and Sabrina. This is pinnacle. This is really, really, really important. So in this process, we have a lot of really touching moments that just make me love Nick so much. He makes it very clear to Sabrina. First of all, he visits her romantically through astral projection. Oh, it's so cute. I love that we have plenty of moments of magic, like in the first episode when Sabrina was doing the classic, like, based off of the cute TV show where she twists multiple times and changes her clothes. I love that we have the background history that when you astral project, these, like, Grim Reaper birds might get you. And whenever the birds showed up in this episode, it's this little haunting moment where it's just like a reflection of everything they do has consequences and danger and magic. Not like The Order. I covered that in another episode. But you want to be aware of all the risks involved, basically. And he romantically came and visited her and let her know he was thinking of Sabrina. And that's when we have some really beautiful moments, because the man has had orgies. Like, he is no spring chicken. And by the way, can we just take a second and say, Jesus Christ, everyone's had sex really young on this show. Like, no shame, whatever your sexual history is. But, like, I would say for your average person who has sex, who's a teenager, I would say the average age is 16. Maybe we get some 15-year-olds, but most of it's 16, and I would even say it's more common on the 17, 18 end. It's super normal nowadays. Even though we're, like, hypersexualized, pornography's everywhere, more people are waiting for when they're comfortable and to meet the one. Compared to, like, the old days where it's just like, I don't know, everyone's doing it. We have more and more out there of, like, it's okay, it's cool to, wait. And that being the case, it's normal that Sabrina would be 16, have waited till 16, and also wants to try it at 16, have sex. I thought it was really weird, though, that, like, literally everyone in the episode was like, even Roz was like, well, at Bible camp, and I'm like, girl, you're like 15, 16. Does that mean you were, like, 14? Or, like, again, we don't know how old Nick Scratch is, but when there was, like, Prudence had him 2 years ago, and then before that, or after that, it was Agatha. This year's my year. I was like, so that's 3 years ago. Nick, were you, like, 14? Like, I'm, like, 13. Like, how old is everyone? Like, ew, a little too early. Or, not ew, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to shame anyone, but I'm just like, Jesus Christ. Like, guys are active. But, anyways, going forward, Nick is a goddamn sweetheart, just like the holiday, and essentially is saying to her, I don't have any pressure. I'm not against it. I'd be open to it. But, like, honestly, I kind of just want to hold your hand. And, like, that made me ooze sweetness. He even implied at one point that, like, they'd probably celebrate another, Lupercalia Day together next year. That he was so into her, he felt so entrusting of their relationship feelings towards each other, that he sees them, like, he's like, we can wait until next year if you want. I see us still being together then. That's how much he likes and respects her. And I feel like when you really are into someone, you kind of react differently than you normally do. You sometimes, like, okay, good example is some people who feel they want to wait for sex, suddenly just want to have sex instantly with that person. Some people who normally have sex all the time, aka Nick, he feels like he wants to wait. He feels that special about it. He wants to value every built-up second to it. And I thought that was really nice and sweet that he's putting her feelings and uncomfortabilities first. But honestly, he just really wanted to, like, gush over her and let her know that, like, he appreciates her for her. And I thought it was interesting how many times in the last 2 episodes, people keep foreshadowing and saying, do you trust Nick? Which I thought was so weird because, like, I don't know, do you get any vibes that he's untrusting? Like, I mean, if we're caught off guard by some stupid plot line that he's really evil, I'm gonna be pissed. Because this show's been really good about, like, foreshadowing vibes, and I don't get that. I hope he isn't that. I hope she is someone who's on her team. He seems like he's on her team. I don't get any sinister vibes as far as I'm concerned. And by the end of this episode, with the, like, emotional turmoil he went through, I really don't feel like he built up anything for a trick, is what I'm trying to say. So anyways, he ends up, throughout the course, admitting to her that he's also really into her because she's half mortal. Now, he says half mortal, and I don't know how that wouldn't be offensive. It's like someone saying to you, like, it's really special. I've never been with a Spanish girl. Do you hear what I'm saying? Do you hear that seems, like, weird and racist? It's like, why, you only like me because I'm immortal? Do you see what I'm saying? It's weird. But I think what he's not fully admitting in that moment is he's never experienced this holiday, or in general any relationship with a person that he felt this deep and vulnerable, strong feelings for, seeing a longer term plan for. And to be honest, he's saying half mortal in the sense that, like, everyone else is so blanketly ready to murder someone and have an orgy. I think it's refreshing to see he sees mortals as a representation of people who make decisions he's not used to. I think he isn't even fully admitted in himself. He's got a little bit in that of that in him as well. And we get this crazy weird reveal. I love where they went in this episode and how weird it went off. During the second night, when they're kind of laying down together, looking at the moonlight, it's quite a romantic notion. I'm gonna go on a side note here. It's like a side tangent. When when my boyfriend told me he loved me for the first time, he used to stay up all night and talk till like 4 a.m. I used to go to be able to talk out loud to him so late. I used to go walk to this forested area. It was like a big clear opening. And I would sit on a log in the middle of this forest clear opening, and it was a full moon that night. I mean, I'm talking like sugar moon big, like really, really, really big full moon. It was huge, and the sky was very clear, and there's these beautiful clouds that would go all across. And I'll never forget just that long pause of him wanting to say something to me, and I was like, what? What is it? He goes, I have something to tell you. And I was like, what? What? Like, he just was building it up. And I'm thinking he's going to be like, I never want to talk to you again. And we had that special moment when he told me that. So just having a moment, just sharing my full moon. Whenever I see a full moon, I think of that. My gosh. So that's my little romance moment. But anyways, that being the case, sorry, I got distracted by my own little corny love story. So anyways, going on. They end up being interrupted by a wolf, which kind of goes perfectly with the Latin word. I think it's like lupus something. It's the Latin word for werewolf. And they hear a werewolf. On a sideline, sweet little Hilda finally goes towards her crush, and she initially gets rejected, right? Very sad. And when she tries to, her sister, who is uncannily very nice to her and supportive, as she was like, come on, sister, like, go get him, fuck him for rejecting you. You are a huntress. You've got that. Best pump up speech and great advice ever. Sometimes don't take no for an answer. They don't know what's hitting them. This is when we get a great cinematic, juxtaposing bait and switch red herring scene. When Hilda goes to approach her boss or crush and, put the moves on him in a sexy leopard dress. I loved that. I loved everyone was like, ooh, you look so cute. He ends up becoming almost like a mid-transformation of a werewolf. He tries to tell her to go. When he turns around, he has big, yellow eyes and hair coming off of him. Simultaneously, we get a reveal when Nick and Sabrina had gone off to have a cute little romantic moment between each other. By the way, very proud of Sabrina. I understand she probably does have some sort of lingering feelings over with Harvey. She does care. She really isn't bringing that to the table and is allowing Roz and Harvey to exist as a couple on their own. And more focusing on this blossoming relationship with Nick. So, I'm proud of her. That takes a lot. It takes a big person to overcome that shit. Because I'm sure she's still dealing with it. But anyways, they go off. They're having a cute little moment. And they get approached by a werewolf. But not even like a Twilight full-on giant wolf type of werewolf. Like the type that stands on two legs. It's nut jobby. And they just barely make it out of the library when Nick does an incantation that successfully seals up the library or banishes it. By the way, when he does this and they freak out and they're like, oh my god, a werewolf's after us, and there are many mortal viewers behind them. It never gets covered of is anyone gonna ask about the werewolf or the boy who just made lava appear around the ceiling of the library doors? Or does everyone have, memorization power or erasing powers or that white powder from the order? Either way, clearly they fixed that. And this is when we get a huge reveal that will later bond Sabrina and Nick in a big way. He ends up revealing that werewolf is actually his familiar, which is interesting because I thought familiars were blanket lake goblins that took the form of animals, but this is a werewolf, which is kind of goes beyond, as in this creature is always a werewolf. It doesn't have two other forms. And it was his familiar, given to him as a baby, which is interesting too, because from what we gather, familiars are something you kind of earn over a longer time period as you develop your own personality and bond with them. And when his family died, we don't know how, maybe that gets revealed as a big plot point later and that can bond him and Sabrina. Because remember, her parents died in a pretty mysterious way. Either way, this werewolf, what was her name? Amalia, something like that. She took care of him. And they have a deep, connection. He appreciated that. He loves her. He still loves her. But the problem is she has this weird, hyperactive, as Miss Wardwell said, rabid jealousy growing inside her. And as he tried to date other girls or build any sense of connection, she would try to hurt them or try to separate them in some way. She could not share him. And it got to the point that he had to unfortunately banish her to something like the Dark Forest or whatever. They didn't say what country it was from, but it was not in the United States. And he's surprised she's here, basically. And the theory goes that she showed up because she felt such a connection that he was so well connected to Sabrina, could sense that maybe because remember, familiars and their warlock or witches are emotionally connected in such a way that I'm sure she can sense it. It's kind of like True Blood in that way. And she was not motherfucking having. She crossed the oceans to break them up, basically. And this kind of puts him in this crazy difficult situation because if he wants to ever have a relationship with Sabrina, and they're having some serious conversations at this point of going beyond just the simple boyfriend-girlfriend, going on even beyond sex. They're just talking about the idea of potentially in the long term ending up together, which is that's so crazy to have that type of conversation. To be honest with you, not to be again, make it about me, but I had some very serious conversations with my boyfriend when we barely knew each other. I mean, he literally asked me, I don't know if this is too open, whatever, we're gonna fucking just cut that vulnerable wound, I'll be open with you guys. I, for most of my life, was very against marriage or not into it. Not for any, like, crazy reason other than I was like, I don't know, like, it doesn't really mean that much to me. Shouldn't someone just want to be with me? I'm not against marrying or for it, really. And we maybe knew each other a few days when he had basically full on was like, what do you think about marriage? Like, that's how strong and intense it was between us when we first met. So, oh, I love him so much. Anyways, so, going forward, damn, I lost track of what I was saying. Oh, so anyways, going forward, Nick is like, okay, I'm gonna have to cut a bitch and get rid of her. And he makes it seem ultimately like he did do that. He even shows a heart, but it turns out that was a bait and switch. He didn't kill her. He makes it seem like he did, and Sabrina is there to support him. I mean, she even says, like, she makes it clear, being like, I don't want you to kill her if that's not what you want to do. She's making it clear that there's no pressure on her end. But at the end of the night, the last night, when they're going to have, potentially, they were going to have sex, or something. Something was going to happen. They were going to be close to each other. Drama goes down, and Amalia shows up again. By the way, I loved the reverse of the Red Riding Hood and the girls in lingerie hunting the boys in the wolf's hats. The boys looked a little bit dorky, but I thought it was very sexy and fun and cool. And when they were chasing after them, he gets pulled initially by Dorcas. By the way, never gets answered. Do you think he did a quickie with Dorcas before he went and saw Sabrina? Most likely not, but she tries to take him. We think we're going to have this one trivial point where I thought personally, and this is how well written the show is, I thought in that moment he was going to be taken by Dorcas, and then the Dark Lord was going to show up as Nick, and Sabrina would unfortunately lose her virginity to the wrong Nick. I thought, I was terrified that was going to happen, and thankfully it didn't. I'd rather have a werewolf show up, to be honest with you. So the werewolf shows up, and Sabrina, not out of fear, even though she is terrified, has this great conversation with her. And honestly, for a hot second, the werewolf kind of almost seems like she is okay with Sabrina for a second. Because Sabrina's being like, yo, girl, I understand. You're not wrong for feeling the way you do. And I bet you the werewolf was like, finally! Can I not just care obsessively about this human I've protected my whole life? What's wrong with everyone else, you know? And Sabrina almost makes this connection until Nick shows up. And then we get that weird moment when the werewolf's on top of Nick and you're not quite sure if she's killing him or what she's doing to him. By the way, no one's discussing this, but why the fuck was the werewolf wearing a petticoat from the 1800s? I was convinced when that werewolf died, it would turn into, like, Nick Scratch's sister or mom, and, like, that's, like, the next level of twist. It never got answered. It was just, like, a werewolf in a petticoat. She put on a coat before she showed up. She wanted to look nice. But what ended up happening is he is attacked by his own familiar, and Sabrina has to make, again, that dark decision that it's getting easier and easier for her to tap into that part of her personality. She stabs him, or stabs the werewolf multiple times. I'm surprised Nick wasn't, like, mad at her or felt pissed that she had killed him. But thankfully he's not like that. He got it. He understood. She was just making a decision. And they have this really wonderful, vulnerable moment of being open. It doesn't end with them having sex. It ends with more of a closer moment. And you can... Okay, how can I break down this moment? On one note, I feel bad for Sabrina. You can feel that she didn't feel relieved that they were opening up and becoming closer as a couple. She kind of a more daunting expression, like, why is any time I get close to anyone, especially involving witchcraft, things don't end well. She's kind of wondering if she's cursed. That's the vibe I got. And then simultaneously, Nick ends up being, like, very regretful and worried Sabrina would have judged him that he couldn't kill her. Felt sad that he lied. Again, this is him being attracted to her as a mortal. And that whole kind of conversation, it's like he thinks there's a negative aspect. Like, he's not supposed to ever be vulnerable and feel soft and I don't know why. It's like all these witches and warlocks are more than capable of that side of their emotional range. But they are told time and time again, no, that's not how you should feel. You're the alien. when in fact they are a lot closer to feelings that they would associate with mortals than they realize. And for him to finally express that, and Sabrina to be like, no, I get it. I'm sorry she died. I'm sorry I killed her. I'm sorry she's dead. And like, you think I wouldn't like you because you didn't want to kill your only family? Like, I get you. I accept you. It's kind of exactly what he needed to hear in that moment. But to be fair, and I don't think Nick will ever hold this against her, but for whatever reason, if she and him didn't end up working out, I don't feel like he would ever blame her for her death. Because ultimately, I think it would have ended that way either way. She was such a jealous person. Nick was going to, whether it be Sabrina or someone else, he was going to continue to have relationships. And she was going to continue to get worse and worse and worse. And that being the case, like, there was no way in hell he was going to properly live his life. But we definitely have that confirmation that they are a couple. He is really into her. And it's very serious. We have Roz and Harvey developing a really sweet, cute relationship, even though I don't fully support it because of Harvey. But other than that, I fucking loved Zelda getting proposed to by Father Blackwood and her just taking a complete power move and being like, I'll consider it, and leaving. And then we get kind of a wonderful reveal that made me respect Zelda more, that she actually really isn't in love with him, but in fact, just is aware of her power moves. And she's just a cool, badass lady who's aware of the politics of the game and she likes to play it. And in turn, I love her advice and the hilarious conclusion that apparently what we thought was the same werewolf and at the same time Hilda's love interest, he is in fact a sex demon, and she gets to be honest about being a witch. And Zelda helps Hilda figure out how to have sex with the sex demon. This show's so fucking wild. I love it. It's that perfect little mix between like, am I pushing the edge? I don't know. Not me, the show. But the what was I gonna say? The last thing I was gonna say was Prudence and Ambrose. I gotta be honest with you. I really, really, really want them to continue to develop a hooking up thing. Right now, they're both the type of personality where, like, Prudence isn't going to get jealous that he's back with Luke. And, you know, Ambrose is clearly more into Luke. But he does not have a healthy relationship with Luke. I don't think Prudence and him are, like, in love. But they just have a great chemistry. I would rather him not be with Luke, who is... He is always up to something for Father Blackwood, and he is just like a sketchy bitch, and I do not like him at all. He's not kind, he does not have positive intentions, and he's sexist, fuck him. And he leads Ambrose down like a bad path, and I would prefer if they weren't together and Ambrose, you know, could sleep with whoever he wanted or, you know, romantically be with whoever he wanted, and maybe like sometimes he hooked up with Prudence. I wouldn't mind if it was exclusive with Prudence, but like, I don't know, I don't give a shit who he wants to be with. I don't know, like, it was cute. I love them together. I love their little, I don't know, I love, by the way, I forgot to mention Prudence's cool, sigil thing in the back of her head. Really nice added detail to her character design. I hope people have fun cosplaying as her. And, overall, it was just a fun-ass episode. I'm pumped for the next one, and you should be too. Don't forget to subscribe, tweet me, tell a friend about the podcast. If you want to become a Patreon supporter, I would greatly appreciate it. Either way, guys, I can't wait to talk to you in the next episode. I love you in the most platonic way possible. Bye!